Friends, welcome everybody to a special edition of Achieving Wellness, and please welcome Ann Perry to Dozen Cats. We're so happy that you're here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, my friend. So interesting. I met Ann Perry I was introduced to Ann Perry through Nancy Jean. So everyone here knows that Nancy Jean taught me tarot. And the first lesson that Nancy Jean gave me was basically the numerology of tarot. And that's when she mentioned Ann's name to me and told me to go and check out her channel, which I am going to stick in the chat right now. If you haven't already subscribed to Ann's channel, it would be most awesome if you go and check it out. She is fabulous. And she's a fellow Canadian. So we love that. So let's just take a moment and say hi to everyone that's popping into the chat. And then as all first guests that arrive at Dozen Cats, we're going to ask you a couple of little icebreaker questions, and then we'll get right into it. So we have the lovely Ivana Intuitive is here to join us. Lisa Rhodes is here. Thank you for being here, friends. Jen is in the house, and Lisa is in the house. Nancy Riker is here. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We really do appreciate it. More people will pop in as we go. So, and Ivana has just subbed to your channel. Thank you, Ivana.
I appreciate it.
All right. Are you ready for your ice-breaking questions, Ann?
I don't know. You've got me here now. If I don't know the answer, can I make stuff up?
Of course.
Okay, good.
The first question is a song that makes you want to dance whenever you hear it.
Oh my God. I want to dance. Well, I like reggae, right? I love reggae. Yeah, anything Bob Marley does.
Yes.
I would have to say This Is Love.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
We're all about the love. I love that answer. It's a great answer.
Yep.
All right. Next question. 3 things that you must carry with you at all times.
I hate to confess, but my cell phone. That's a terrible thing to confess, but it's the truth. My cell phone, my reading glasses.
Right?
Yeah. Nothing too exciting, guys. Cell phone, reading glasses. What else do I like to carry with me? Water.
Excellent. Those are all great things. I mean, they're needs and a little bit of hydration. So some self-care. I love that. I think that's fabulous. All right. If you could time travel to any year, past or future, what year would you like to go to?
That comes up real quick for me. 1979.
I love it.
Let's go back.
Right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. I love that.
100%.
Okay. If you could switch careers for like a week, what do you think you would like to do?
I'd want to work in an animal rescue.
Oh.
Large animals predominantly, but any animal for that matter. But large animals would really draw me in. Horses, cats, pigs.
See, that's a very deep answer. When I think of these questions and I try to, change them up a little bit, my answer to that question is I want to be the person that names the paint chips.
You know what? I've thought about that. I have thought about that, Kelly. I have.
Oh,
I
have
think
you?
that's got to be the coolest job ever. A couple of
I
glasses of
mean,
wine and let's do it.
I mean, exactly. It's like, do you wake up from a dream and go, yes, cashmere white? Like, I mean, what? I want to know what kind of salary do you get for this? I don't.
I know. I'd do it for free, man. Like that. I just think that'd be a blast. I love
Wouldn't it
that.
be so much fun?
Hmm.
All
Yeah.
right. The last question is, where is your happy place, Anne?
Whoa, that's a big oof. That's a loaded question actually, because I thought I knew where my happy place was until recently and it changed.
Oh,
So I'm gonna say with my husband for sure, with my child, my grandson, family, you know. Uh we live on the water. I love being on the water.
yeah,
So that's important to me for sure. Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
See, now we've just learned some things about Anne that most people don't know, and so we thank you for sharing that with us. And I think all of your answers were lovely.
Heck, I didn't know the answers myself until
Right.
that's great. Good warm up.
So, Anne, what made you become a numerologist?
Well, I'm a 7. My life path number is a 7, and so I'm the the all-time seeker. I always have been. I've always had an interest in things that go bump in the night. And several years ago, about 22 years ago, I had a Reiki practice, and I was a Reiki master, and I was teaching and such. And my practice was growing. Reiki was kind of unknown on the East Coast at this point, so I wanted to know my clients a little bit more intimately. And somebody introduced me to Dan Millman's book, this one, The Life You're Born to Live. You might know that one. And I just looked at my date of birth, and it just told me so much about me. And I thought, oh man, I could really apply this to my work. So I was able to know things about my clients just by knowing their date of birth. I mean, this book isn't so much about numerology because he only talks about dates of birth, doesn't
Right.
get into the name and such. But I was able to know so much more about my clients, and I knew why some of them were resistant to heal because they had the victim mentality, which is associated with certain numbers. And I knew what personal years they were in and personal months that they were in and things like that. So it was just a fabulous tool to help me to know people a little bit better. And it was so telling.
That's
And then,
amazing.
yeah, no, I had gone through kind of a bit of a dark night of the soul. And when I started taking a serious interest in numerology and I went back to look at that year that I was going through my heart space, there was an element called an essence that showed up on my chart that completely blew me away. I went like, I'm all in at this point. So
I love that. That's
yeah.
fascinating. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
So, what we want to do tonight is we want to talk about the year 2023 and what it means when we break down the numbers of 2023. And so I'm going to pass it on over to you because I wouldn't even know what question to ask and allow you to sort of explain it to us, which at this point, I'm sure you've been asked this question in many different forms a million times at this point on January the 9th, right? You said it's a really busy time of year, and I can imagine a lot of people are reaching out asking similar type questions to you. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay.
However, which way you want to explain it, we're all ears.
All right. Well, first of all, I think it's important. Thank you for that. I think it's important to take a look at where we've been before we take a look at where we're going. Okay. So let's review last year for a little bit. So 2022 was a very, very, very intense year for many of us. So 2022, when we add 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2, it comes to 6. So that's what we call the universal year when we add up all the numbers in the year of birth, in the year, the universal year. So that adds up to 6. So, but more to the point, it adds up to 6, but it's 3 number 2s. Okay, so that's a code. When we see that, that's a code. So we know that the 6 relates to home and family and where you fit into all that and a sense of responsibility. You probably felt pulled in 16 different directions because the sense of responsibility was so huge. So it really wasn't about you last year. It was about you and how you related to other people. So when we look at the combination of the twos, 3 twos. That's triple the intensity of the number 2, which is about partnerships within the 6, which is about the home and family. Okay. A lot of domestic drama, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of domestic drama and a lot of questioning, you know, why do I feel like this is my responsibility? And if you have dominant 6s in your chart, you would have felt last year more so. I mean, I have a dominant 6 in my chart. So I felt that huge sense of responsibility to my friends, you know, and to some coworkers and things like that. So 2022 was a very, very intense year. We thought a lot about the Ukraine, what was going on in there. We thought a lot about various other domestic things going on. Very, very sensitive year. So if you have dominant 2s or you have dominant 6s in your chart, you would really would have felt that. But when we talk about the universal year, it's an umbrella influence. Okay.
Right.
So last year I was in a 7 personal year under the influence of the 6 universal year. Okay. So the 7 relates to more about spirituality and such and getting to know yourself and asking a lot of questions and things. But it related back to the home and the family. Do I still want to live here? Where's my happy place? Where, you know, what do I want to do? Do I want to expand? Do I want to, renovate or whatever? Do I want to move? All those sorts of things came into be. So your personal year, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the personal year has a bigger influence than what the universal year does. But the universal year is like this umbrella that all of us are under. Okay, we're all influenced by it. But it'll feel differently to everybody depending upon which personal year they're in. So when we moved into, let's talk about the shadow for a second. We have a shadow period that starts about October, right around October 1st. And that's when the current year, 2022, was started to kind of wind down a little bit. Think of it this way, like January 1st of any given year, you get a full cup of whatever that year is. Okay, so last year, 2022, was a full cup of 6. And for every day that would go by, the entire universe was being influenced by this number 6. By the time we got to October, we start kind of shifting away from that, and we start feeling the influence of the 7 that's coming in.
Interesting.
Now we come into January, and January brings us a full cup of 7. So this is going to be a big year related to questioning what do we want? Where do we want to go? How do we want to get there? Who is God? Is there a God? Who is the divine? It's, you hear a lot of people talking about the ascension, and I am definitely no expert related to the ascension, but I know personally that I'm going through a massive shift with ascension right now. So I feel that a lot of us are going to be kind of retreating a little bit. After last year's involvement with home and family and domestic responsibility and such, we're backing off, going, say, what, you guys just back off right now. Like we're all going in our cave right now, collectively, right?
It feels very much that way right now in this energy, at least for me personally. I feel that very much, that I sort of feel like I need to put up some barriers or some boundaries to sort of like distance myself just a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. And the thing is too, when you think about it, we have, we're in January, which is the first month. We're in a 7 universal year. You add the 2 together, it comes to an 8. So we've just shifted into our 7, which says, what do I want? And the 8 is the influence of what do I want to manifest? Is it money? Is it health? Is it career? Is it relationships? Like, what do we want to manifest? So it's a great way to start out the year, to be honest. Like it's actually quite a neat way to do it.
It is. And I love that you just said that, because oftentimes when we are feeling that, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? It feels very overwhelming and sort of like a daunting sort of practice. And then you start questioning yourself and, the woulda, shoulda, coulda kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that when you look at it from a positive perspective, this is literally like you're drawing a roadmap.
Yeah.
Right. That's a positive way to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that imagery that you gave. It really relates to stepping back from everything, stepping back from the noise, and learning how to meditate, and prioritizing what do you want. This is a year all about you. This is about you getting in touch with who you are and what you want. Last year it was like, I got to do the right thing by everybody else. I'm not important. You know, everybody else is more important than me. And those of you who have dominant 6s in your chart, you know what I'm talking about. Now, as we move into this 7 universal year, those of you who have dominant 7s in your chart, like myself, man, is this like a head case year? Like, it's just, I call the 7 a head case, right? Because it's the truth. Now, the problem with the 7 energy vibration is that you have to be extremely careful that you are not overthinking things. Guilty as charged. Oh my God. Yeah, we can't overthink things, but more to the point, it's not really a good idea to make any big decisions when you're under the influence of the 7, because the 7 keeps you up here, right? So when you make decisions based on what you think you should do, what happens energetically is the brain kicks open and goes, oh, Kelly wants to think something. Oh, and the ego's going up there like, yeah, I can't wait to screw her up. I can't wait to mess her up. I can't wait to get her totally confused, right? That's the ego's job. To create uncertainty, to create you being, out of balance, and second guessing everything. But when you make a decision by saying, I feel,
yes,
right? It's a safer decision because you invite your heart center to open, and you'll start making decisions based upon how you feel. Now, for those of us who are 7s or who have dominant 7s in their charts, that's going to feel like you're breaking in new shoes, because 7s don't typically feel. We think, right? That's what we do. And we make a lot of stupid decisions, right? Based on, I got 2 marriages behind me because I thought it was the right thing to do, Had I felt my way through that, I would have made a very different decision. That's why I wanted to go back to 1979. So anyway.
I love that. So we have Rose just said, I'm a 9 according to my date of birth, but not sure what year I'm in now. So I know you said we're going to talk about that.
Yep.
Am I correct? There are 2 different philosophies to numerology. Is that true?
Oh, there's probably dozens.
Okay.
Are you referring to how the personal year runs?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Great question. I'm glad you brought that up, Kelly. So astrologers believe that our personal year begins on our birthday and ends the day before our next birthday. Numerologists who are purely numerologists typically observe that our personal year begins January 1st, ends December 31st. Now, here's the thing. That's the way I go, January to December, because that feels right to me. However, I cannot prove that that's correct. I cannot prove that that theory is correct, nor can anybody prove that going from birthday to birthday is correct, right? So the way I teach numerology is to encourage people to play with it both ways. What feels right to you? That's what's important. It's not about me being right. It's about you tapping in and really feeling what it is. But for the purpose of discussion, I do tend to believe that we go from January until the end of December. Now,
I'll take two birthday celebrations. I'm all about it. I'm a Leo, so I'm
there you go.
I'll take 2 birthday celebrations.
Well, the other thing is that astrologers aren't really abreast of what we call in numerology, we call essences. And now very few numerologists ever talk about essences, and I honestly don't understand why. I mean, this is one of the number one things I focus on when I'm doing a reading for somebody is the essence. So Kelly, do you mind sharing your date of birth? Would you
absolutely. It's August the 11th. Of course, 1965.
Same as my mother.
Oh, really?
Obviously a different year, but yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, so, you found out here first, folks. I'm Anne's mom. No.
That's right. But we got lots to talk about.
Don't we?
Oh my.
And friends, can you see that Anne and I are wearing similar colors, which I just think is fun.
Yeah.
And Anne is a fellow Canadian. So I love that.
Yes. You gotta love that, right?
Hi, everyone in the chat, by the way. This is Anne Perry. She has an excellent channel. I keep sticking the link in the chat. Please do go check it out. She has a wealth of information on there that is absolutely fascinating. So if you don't happen to get a question answered here tonight, or we don't cover a topic that you're particularly interested in, please do go check out her channel. It's amazing.
Oh, I appreciate that, Kelly. Thanks. There's actually a really good, and I don't take credit for it because I didn't create my website, but there's a really great resource page on my website, manperrynumerologist.com. You can check that out too if you like. But here, you're a good example here, Kelly. So we know that we'll do the equations later, but I just want to talk about the fact that you are in an 8 personal year. I am in an 8 personal year. Okay. So an 8 is an 8 is an 8. It's the same for you as it is for me. The 8's all about manifestation. It's about our money, our power, our authority, our relationship with money, making sure that nobody's treating us like a doormat anymore, really stepping into our own personal power. That's kind of what it's about. But you're going to go through your personal year of 8 very differently than I will go through mine.
Right.
And that is because your name on your birth certificate is very different than mine.
Right.
That creates what's called an essence. Okay. So I want you to think of the 9-year cycle that we look at, numerology for personal years. From one is all about new beginnings, new opportunities. It's all about you being number 1, right? We go into a year of 2, and it's going to be about you and one other person. Okay. We go into a 3, it's going to be about you, one other person, and another person. So it becomes social. And then the 4 is all about, 4 posts in the ground creates the foundation. The 5 is about change. 6 is about family, so on and so forth.
Right.
But so that's a black and white template. Okay. Those years from 1 to 9, it's the same for everybody, right? Same for me as it is for Nancy, as it is for Teresa, for Lise. It's 8 is an 8 is an 8, right? But you're going to go through it differently because your birth name is different than mine. And that creates the essence. Now, the essence is what starts on your birthday and typically will end the day before your next birthday. But it is possible for an essence to repeat itself up to 9 times. Wow. So you could be in the same essence next year and the next year and the next year, right? It'll feel different every year. Right. But see, this is what the astrologers miss. And I think this is why they defend that we go day, birthday to birthday.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. So I'm telling you, when you understand your essences, it is the difference between knowing what personal year you're in and knowing what personal year you're in. it's okay. That profound.
So an essence you said is by your birth name.
Yes.
Can you give us a little short breakdown as to how we go about figuring out what our essence is? I know that Kelly, think big words. The sort of like the Paraga, what's it called?
Pythagorean.
Yes, thank you. There's like a chart, and each letter contains a particular number value, right? And then you add all those up, and it is your original birth name. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Everything in numerology goes back to the original birth name because the birth name, you didn't choose your birth name, but you did choose the vibration of your birth name. So prior to your birth, you would have sent forth a message to whoever named you in this lifetime. And you would have said, I don't care what you call me. You call me whatever you want, but you have to make sure that my name is going to vibrate at the vibration of the number 5, because I want the 5 to support my journey as a number 8, as a life path number 8, because the life path number that comes from the date of birth, that is your lesson number. Okay. Your name on your birth certificate, full name on the birth certificate, all the names as it's published, even if it was written wrong, even if it wasn't intended, whatever was published on that birth certificate, that's what you're going to base your expression number on. So that's all the letters in the birth name. That brings in your chosen talents and gifts. And then we go down and we look at just the vowels in your birth name, and that produces the heart's desire number, what you're passionate about. So in answer to your question about essences, there is no way I can teach this here.
Gotcha. Okay.
I use a computer. I mean, I know how to do it manually, but I use a computer to do it because honestly, it's extremely time consuming to do the essences.
Okay.
And
but you've helped us break down. So we just to review. So whatever name is published on your birth certificate, whether it was incorrectly done or not, and my father is an excellent case in that point. Up until the day that they applied for their marriage license, my mother and my father spelt his name. His first name is Gary, and he spelt his name with 2 R's because that's how he was told his name was spelled. And when they applied for their marriage license, guess what? No, 1 R.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
That's really quite interesting. I just want to answer
Anna.
Anna Banana.
Yeah.
Love that name. I want to address that for a second. What happens when your birth certificate is wrong? So there is no wrong birth certificate. It's always right. Okay. Even though your mother might have said, oh, damn, I thought, you should have spelled it this way and it's a clerical error. No, it's not. It's what you asked the vibration to be. Right. And so that's what's going to bring in your talents and your gifts. Now, going back to your father, Kelly, whenever we change our name in any way, shape, or form from the way it was published on,
which covers this next question from Lise, does it change with maiden to married name?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I wish I'd known that back when I did this. But anyway, who knew? Whenever we change our name in any way, shape, or form from the way it appears on our birth certificate. So let's say, Kelly, you go by Kel. You kind of shorten it, and that's how you sign your name now, right? Well, that changes everything. It changes the whole vibration. So when I do up a numerology chart for somebody, I include not only the birth name, but also the present, current name, the way in which you introduce yourself right now. Right. Because when we change our name, it changes the vibration. So what does that do? If you came in, for example, with your birth name holding a karmic debt, okay, it identifies a karmic debt. This does not eliminate the fact that you brought in a karmic debt. That'd be way too easy, right? Oh, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to change my name. I don't think so, right?
Right.
But what it does do is it has people, they see you a little differently. Now, sometimes this is okay, and sometimes it's not. I always think of it as, ideally, we should all be introducing ourselves as our names appear on our birth certificate, but most of us won't do that, right? Because they've got lots of middle names or whatever. But that's the ideal, because then it keeps in alignment the vibration that you chose to bring in. So then you go and screw it up by getting married, or you drop your middle name, or you reduce your first name, or you do something, you adjust it in any way, it changes that vibration. Sometimes it's to your advantage. For example, if you brought in a birth name and a heart's desire number that are both fours, for example, the fours can be a little stuck. The fours can be a little rigid in their thinking, and they're a little bit, not able to be flexible. So if you changed your name to something that added a little bit of flexibility, then the way that you appear to people is a little softer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. Lise has an excellent sort of just comment to sort of add to what you're speaking about. My sister changed her name 4 times, meaning Becky, Becca, Rebecca, and Breck.
Interesting. It would be interesting to look at what all that means, in terms of what she was going through at the time when she felt she needed to change it.
Right.
And I will tell you that, lots of people come to me and go, oh, I'm thinking about changing my name. It's like they think it's a big instant fix. It's not. It's been shown that it takes anywhere from 6 to 7 years before you'll even start to see the difference.
Wow. That's
so
really,
ultimately,
really interesting.
yeah. So ultimately, it's best to leave your name alone. And
right now, do you have that chart on your channel, and where people could go? Do you have a video about how they could find their is it the destiny number using the codes for the different letters?
Well, it's easy. It's actually the easiest thing to do is if you go to my website, AnnPerryNumerologist.com.
I will type that in the chat.
Okay. If you go there and you scroll down, you're going to see an opportunity to sign up for a newsletter. And I promise you, I don't inundate you with newsletters. That's not my style. But if you sign up for that, you're going to get a video that's called 3 Things Your Date of Birth Can Reveal About You. It's not on YouTube. You can't get it anywhere else. But it'll also get you into a succession of about 10 little lessons that will kind of come one after the other through the email. And we cover everything from, what is an expression number? How do you calculate it? What is a life path number? That kind of thing. Like there's all kinds of neat little videos that come out, short little videos. Like they're like, I don't even think they're 10 minutes. Right. But you'll get one every couple of days.
Right.
And it depends on my website too, or, on my YouTube channel too.
Excellent. So I just popped that into the chat. That's Ann's website. And if people want to get a chart done from you personally, go to the website for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can also join the community. I also have a membership community, which I teach numerology in there 4 times a month live. And it's great. They're just short 1-hour classes. Everybody gets a chance to ask questions and whatnot. They are so much fun. We are having a blast in there. So want to hang out with some like-minded people. It's a Clarity Seekers community. You'll find it on the
I
website.
love that. Clarity Seekers community.
Yeah.
You know, what's really interesting is I still have my sheets that that Nancy Jean had given me in that Troy lesson that I mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm going to look up Dozen Cats Wellness. That's what I'm going to do.
Good idea.
I've never done that before.
Yep. Yep. Good idea. It's really important. It's very, very important. Yeah.
So interesting. And it makes me think about certain names. You know, like if your name is William, for example, and then, you know, you transition to Willie or Bill or Billy, right?
Yep.
Say you're named after your dad, and I have that example in my family, right? William changed to a Bill, and then had a son named him Bill, and he was called Billy, even though his name on his birth certificate was William, right?
Right.
So I never thought about how that would affect things. And you mentioned about how people might call me Cal, for example. I can't stand it when people short form my name.
Right.
I really don't like it at all. And very few people get away with that, just as an FYI. Only people that I'm really close to can get away with that. My sister does it all the time. And I think she did it from a time that when we were little, you know, because it bothered me. You know what I mean? Right? But that's super interesting to me, just how that would change the perception and how you're received. And I think that's super interesting. Could tell you so much about yourself.
Oh, yeah. And
I feel like you're going to have a flood of people coming to your website, which is lovely.
That's awesome. But, you know, the other thing, too, I have people coming to see me about our business names. You know, you talk about Dozen Cats Wellness Tarot. They come to me for business names because you have to think about who do you want to attract to your business. If you already have a name that vibrates at the 8, we already know that you have the energy of the manager, the leader. That's a big energy, you know. It's a big energy. So when we already have that, sometimes it's nice to kind of tone that vibration down a little bit because it's just overwhelming. Possibly, like, you know, I'll know some people who are 8s that want to be in the wellness industry, right? And they want to do aromatherapy or massage therapy or things like that. Well, the 8's a great number for business, there's no question. But if you want to attract, you know, a spiritual crowd, you might want your name the business name to vibrate at a 7, right? That sort of thing. So
it's super interesting. I'm honestly, like, I'm fascinated. I wish that you had all day because I could go on all day. So I know that everyone is, you know, chomping at the bit probably to find out, you know, what life path number you are. What I would love for you to do before we go, like, you don't have to do this now, but it pops into my head, is tell us the way in which we find our life path number, because for the different chats that I go into, there's lots of confusion for some people as to what the correct way is of finding out what our life path number is based on our birth date.
Okay. So I love this question, and I love that you asked this because yours is definitely a case in point.
Right.
All right. So any chance you can put up across the screen your date of birth, like 8/11/1965?
Sure. Just give me 1 second here. Let me type a banner in. All right. So we'll go August 11, 1965. Add banner. There we are.
There you go. Okay. So August we know is the 8th month. Okay. There's several different ways out there to do the numerology, to do the life path number. And at the end of the day, you guys have to choose which one works best for you. Now, I'll give you an example. My date of birth is March 25th of 1959. Now, Dan Millman's book, the one that I showed you earlier, this one, best book ever written on the subject of life path numbers, bar none. Like, he is the master. However, I don't quite like the way he does the calculations. But this is how I was introduced to numerology in the first place. So this is all I knew. So when you take my date of birth and add the numbers straight across, it comes up to 34, and 3 and 4 equal 7. So I couldn't argue that I was a 7. I mean, I'm a 7, straight up 7. Like there's everything about me is a 7, right? Now, the numbers that add up to the 7, that 3 and the 4, and then we have a slash, 7. 3 plus 4 equals 7. The 3 and the 4, those are what we call sub-lessons to the main lesson. Okay, the main lesson is the 7. That's what I'm working towards. How do I work towards that? I could have been a 25-7. 2 and 5 equals 7. I could have been a 16-7. I could have been just a straight up 7. But in his methodology, I come up as a 34-7. So I kept looking at that and I'm going, well, all right, if the 3 is all about learning how to communicate, clearly I have no issue there, right? I've never, trying to shut me up is a bigger deal, right? I don't have any trouble communicating or expressing myself. So that didn't make sense to me. The 4 is all about, being on time and delivering a good product and being focused and a planner. And I got all that. So those sub lessons didn't speak to me. Okay. When I learned the methodology behind the work of Matthew Oliver Goodwin, so Matthew wrote 2 books. If you want to study numerology, they're the only 2 books that you're ever going to need. Hang on, I'll tell you what they're called. Just a sec. Numerology, The Complete Guide, Volume 1 and 2. I believe they're probably the best books ever written on the subject of numerology on the whole. Now, Matthew teaches us to break down the month as a single digit, the day as a single digit or a master number, the year as a single digit or a master number, add those together, and then reduce that to a single digit. Now, when you do that with my date of birth, it comes up as 16-7. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, we have a winner. I get it. The number 1 relates to developing confidence and being a leader and tapping into my creative potential and blah, 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 right? And then the 6 is all about the sense of responsibility and learning balance in my life. I got all those things. But more to the point, the 16-7 is also a karmic debt number, which I completely understand that I am paying back for. So that's where I defend my methodology, okay? Again, I can't prove that I'm right, nor can anybody else prove that they're right to add the numbers straight across. It's what feels right to you, okay? Now, your date of birth is a beautiful example again. So when we look at August 11th, 1965, if we add the numbers straight across, it comes up to 31. Okay, and 3 and 1 equal 4. Now, that would mean that you were here to learn the 2 sub-lessons of the 3 and the 1. Okay, so the 3 relates to learning how to express yourself. Clearly, you have no trouble with that. I think you probably write very well because you think before you speak, you form your words, you're serious about what you say, you got it all, right? You've got a good sense of humor. All those things relate to the number, the positive side of the 3. So I don't get that sense that you have that 3 lesson there. You might say differently, but I don't think you do. The 1, now I should say that the number that sits closest to the slash is the one that you will feel the most because it's closest to you, right? The 1 is all about being independent, being a leader, being an innovator, learning how to be these things. You're already that. Right? You're already that. So again, I mean, I've only just met you, but I do not feel that you're a 31-4, but that's just me personally. Now, this is a really good, Kelly's date of birth is an excellent case in point. The reason that Matthew Oliver Goodwin did not want us adding the numbers straight across is because that the day that you chose to be born on, that is a core number. And if you just add the numbers straight across, you just blend it all into the mix and it doesn't get emphasized, right? Well, Kelly, you're born on the 11th day, right? That's a bit of a big, fat, hairy deal, right? So the fact that you're born on the 11th day, you are the spiritual messenger. That's why you're drawn into tarot. That is why you've created this. You could have just created a YouTube channel and not had chats like this. But you do it because you're a leader. You're an innovator. You want to try something new. And the creative process is interesting and inspiring to you. And you feel that sense of responsibility as a Master 11.
100%.
Right? Right. Now, when we break your date of birth down independently, August comes down as an 8. Okay. The 11th day comes down as an 11 because we don't reduce the master numbers. So if you're born on the 11th or the 22nd day, you leave that alone. 1965, 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 6 is 16, plus 5 is 21, and 2 and 1 equal 3. Okay. Now we're going to add 8 plus 11 plus 3 comes to 22, right? 22-4.
Yeah.
You are the master number 22-4, who has a sub-lesson of the 11. Okay, your day of birth is the sub-lesson that you bring to support you or to enhance the bigger lesson, which in your case is the 22-4. So what's interesting about that is that the 4 is somebody who wants to create a foundation that will support humanity in a big way. You have a big need to create some kind of a foundation where people are empowered in some way. Okay. Yeah. Now, what you probably get frustrated with is that there's a part of you that feels that you have to do it by yourself. This huge responsibility to create something that, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that that your life path number is a 22-4 means that your sub-lessons relate to the number 2, and that's about collaboration. That's about partnership. If you're going to build that 4, that foundation, the way that you open the door to be able to do that is to learn how to collaborate. Hello, right? Right? You're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? You're doing it. So you have to learn how to be patient. Anything related to the number 2, that's that sub-lesson. The patience, diplomacy, the partnership, understanding that, I want to create something great. I want to create something really good. And the fact you're born on the 11th day, there's double ones there. What do we know about the number 1? 1 is independent. 1 is creative. 1 is authentic and original. You're not meant to create something that somebody else has done.
No.
You're meant to do it Kelly's way.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right? So, good job, right? Careful.
Yeah. Well, no, it's the truth, though, because I want to be surrounded by the people that I'm inspired and motivated by. But at the same time, sometimes, more often than I care to admit, I'm like, oh my gosh, like if you want something done right, do it yourself. So that is not out of the water. That is a very common occurrence in my life, that I'm constantly butting heads, where I'll say, you know what, let's reach out to this person. And then the person gets here and you're like, oh my God, why did I do that? So like it seemed like a great idea at the time, is kind of what I mean.
Is Kelly your first name published on your birth certificate?
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we consider your growth number. 10, 13, 20. Oh, wait, no. Kelly. So 2, 5, 3, 3, 7. So 3 and 7 are 10, 13, 18, 20. Yeah. See, your growth number is to learn how to work in partnership with people patiently. Right? Even your capstone, what we call your capstone, it's the letter K that vibrates at the 2. The cornerstone, the Y, vibrates at the 7, right? So this is collaborating with people for a bigger reason and related to spirituality and growth.
I love that.
You're definitely on your path. Definitely.
Well, thank you, my friend, for saying that.
Definitely.
It feels right.
Yeah.
And I have a really super interesting story about 11 that I would love to share with you. Most of the people that follow me already know this story ad nauseum, but I'll try to. Ivana says, Kelly Ann's got your number. Laugh out loud. I just want to share this really quickly because I think it seems very relevant to me, to the conversation that we're having. So, and Anna, I do have your thing that you wrote, your comment. I do have it starred, so not to worry. About 3 or 4 weeks before my grandmother passed, this is going back about 12, 15 years ago, I started to see 11:11 all the time. Every time I looked at the clock, or 1:11. Didn't really pay much attention to it. Thought it was weird. Noticed that I kept looking at it. My grandmother died just shortly after 1. I was insistent that my mother must go to the hospital, dig up every record and speak to everyone she could. She thought I was crazy. She did not do that because I was convinced that there was a reason. Kept going about my business. I would see it in fits and spurts, right? For a couple of months, I'd see it every day. And then for a couple of months, I wouldn't see it at all. Anyways, my mother gets sick. And every time we're going to the hospital, it's like 11:11 or 9:11 or 4:11, and I'm shouting it out to whoever I'm in the car with, and they're like, "We get it. You see 11. No one cares. Like nobody got it, right?"
Yeah.
One weekend, I'm at my mom's house, and where my mom lived, everyone sat in the garage and talked. It was very weird. I don't get it. But anyway, so these ladies invite us over. We start talking, and my mom's had a few beers at this point, and one of the neighbors says that she sees a particular number all the time on the clock. And I say, you know, oh, me too. And my mom's like, oh my God, tell him you're. All of a sudden, my mother was a total believer.
Yeah. Yeah.
She thought I was completely crazy.
Of course.
I went home and looked it up on the internet, and it said your window of opportunity is open. And I thought, well, I'm no wiser for this information. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds positive. So we'll run with it. Sadly, my mother passed away, and I had a reading, not by anyone in this community, from a psychic medium, who at the very end said to me, come up really close to the camera. It was over Zoom. She said, I feel like I'm supposed to do this to you. She said, when you see 1111, don't doubt it's me, meaning it's my mom. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so spectacular. I mean, what a beautiful thing. Yeah. And so every time I see 1111 or 111, I say, thank you, mommy. I love you. And I miss you. And then we had some issues with my mother's passing, and only my mother passed in 2012, and only in 2021 were we able to have her remains actually put where her wish was to have them put. And so I wrote a little thing to say at that service, and I went through time, we waited 9 years, blah, blah, blah. Wow. 111 months is how long we waited.
Isn't that crazy?
And so I have tingles all over my body. And so now whenever 1111 or 111 comes up, or there's 11 people in the chat or something like that, I've been on for 1 hour and 11 minutes, something of that nature. I'm like, it is no accident that I keep seeing this 11 all the time. No. And I choose to look at it as a great positive, right? I like, if someone told me it was a negative thing, I wouldn't believe it. So I wanted to say, to your point, like when you resonate with those numbers, like that's really significant and an important thing to sort of tell the people that are ever going to listen to this in the future or who are listening now. It's about how those numbers make you feel. What's your compatibility with that? Like, does that make sense to you?
100%. I'm glad you said that, because I get this all the time. I'm seeing 1111, or I'm seeing 333s or 444s or whatever, and they want me to interpret it and tell them what it means, and I'm like, what does it mean to you?
Yeah.
Like, stop for a second. And it's, for me, it's not a number. My mother comes to me in the form of an eagle. That's why I have a tattoo with an eagle feather, right?
Love it.
And I have my own reasons why I know that my mother connects to me in the form of an eagle. So what does 1111 mean to you? You have your own version of that story. You know that when you're seeing 1111, that's your mom coming through and speaking to you, right? So
we have someone in the chat right now, Cat Mama Meow. Yeah. And quite often she's been in my chat when my mom has, when it's like 11:11, and she will send me a screenshot of me on the screen at that time, and then email it to me, which is just so kind. I mean, that's my point is, everyone knows that story. Yeah. Ron saying it is your mom. So Anna had something that she posted up in the comments, and I want to make sure that we get this in. She says, what happens when your roots, so I'm assuming you mean, your
heritage, ancestry?
Yes, thank you. Require both paternal and maternal names be recorded, but the state only records the paternal.
I would just go with paternal.
Yep. So again, what Anne said was, whatever is published on your birth certificate is what you go with in terms of figuring out the number for it, because even if it's wrong, even if it was spelt differently, or you dropped one of your names after a while, even if you changed your name, even if you got married, the number is what was published on your birth certificate, because you said you choose that, right?
That's right. You choose the vibration of your birth name. You don't choose the name. The whole point is when you're creating your soul's contract prior to your incarnation, you're giving consideration. An example would be, I chose to come in as a 16-7 life path number. So while the 7 is a spiritual teacher, the 7 likes to spend time by themselves. The 7 loves to sit and read books and meditate and be quiet and be out in nature. All like, well, I wouldn't be all that successful a spiritual teacher if that's all I did. Right. So I chose to bring in the number 5 as my expression number, which says I can do YouTube, I can do StreamYard Lives, I can do radio, TV, whatever you want me to do. None of that phases me. Right. But that's because the gift of that ability to do it, whatever, is there, right?
Yeah, yeah, gotcha.
Right.
All right. So is there anything that you think that we need to like another little quick tidbit that you can share with us, something that's like really fascinating? I did want to ask about really quickly the number 33 as a master number. Some people say yes, it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Some people say no, it isn't. Oh. Apparently, it's a millennial thing. I don't understand that.
No. Well, they might be saying it's a millennial thing because it took a while before the dates of birth actually produced a number 33.
Right.
Right. That could be a timing thing. I don't even understand that either. But I know that 33 6s, I have a few of them in my community. Actually, man, do they struggle. It's a 6, right?
Right.
But how do they get to be the 6? They get to be the 6 by learning how to be a confident speaker about unconditional love.
Right.
And so they have to be accepting of themselves before they can actually walk through that door to be the best 6 they can be. So the number 33 6 is the master teacher. So they're intended to teach people to accept everything as divinely perfect with no judgment whatsoever.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's a tough one. It's a really, really tough one. And there's not a whole lot published. I do have a video on it. If you want to search my YouTube channel, I do have a thing. I think it's called what does the master number 33 6 need to learn? It's on there, right. But there's not a whole lot because there's not a whole lot of 33 6s out there. So the demand for the material isn't quite there yet.
I love it. Cat Mama Meow says, why is the birth certificate so domineering? I think what she means is why is it so important?
Because the belief is that the birth name contains the history of all of your incarnations, and that you would have communicated to your mom, your dad, your uncle, your brother, whoever named you, what you wanted that vibration to be. So the vibration that brings in your talents, your gifts, and your passions comes from your birth name. So in order for you to be supported in the way in which you want to be supported, you have to look at your you have to look at your life path number that comes from your date of birth, right. And choose the vibration that will support your journey.
I love that. So awesome. Okay, so I don't know if I confused what you were asking, Anna, or if I just misunderstood. So when Anne was talking about the birth certificate before, the birth certificate was about the name, right? That's what we were going on. Yeah, so correct. If your birth certificate has been printed with a different birth date, I will pass that over to Anne to answer because I don't know that.
So even though I was born, I don't know if that's May 4th or April 5th. It doesn't really matter in the calculations. I need to use 5569 that was printed. That is going to take readjusting too. See, that's a really great question. I don't think I've ever run into that before. I think you have to really play with it to see what feels right to you. Right. Which of those life path numbers would feel right to you. I mean, 5/4/1969, 1 9 10 19 25 7 7 10 11 20. That would produce a life path number of 20/2.
Right.
It should be a no-brainer, really, because when we look at 5/5/1969, that's going to produce a life path number of 17/8. Well, the 17/8 is a heck of a lot different person than the 20/2 is.
Right.
So the 20/2 is somebody who's shy, needs to learn a little bit more about patience, really loves partnership, doesn't really like to do things by themselves, prefers to work in partnership with people, doesn't really like the big group dynamic, would prefer to be, working one-on-one with people in smaller groups, that sort of thing. Whereas the 17/8 is somebody that typically wants to be the manager, wants to be the leader, wants to be out there, is very assertive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that you should go with, Anna. So I hope that answers the question, Anna. So Amanda says, my name was legally changed completely at 9 months. And so even though, from what I understand from what Anne said, and I don't know why I'm answering for Anne, but based on what Anne said, even if the name on your original birth document was spelt incorrectly, or you ended up getting married, so you would have changed your name or anything like that, you go with the name that was put on your birth certificate at your birth, right?
So there's two thoughts on that. I personally believe that, yes, that's how I would do it. Right. But if somebody came to me with that situation and I was doing a reading for them, I would do it both ways. I would do it on the first published name on the birth certificate. How does that feel to you? And then we would look at the new name at 9 months. How does that feel to you? And we would go from there. And then I allow my client to choose which one they feel that they are, because you definitely will tap into it. If someone explains it to you well enough, right, they'll definitely tap into it. There are some numerologists that believe that if the birth name was changed within the first 12 months and there was actually a new birth certificate created for them, or possibly the child never even had a birth certificate for whatever circumstances, and they're finally adopted and they get that birth certificate, that can happen too. But some believe that if it's changed within the first year, you go with the change. I personally don't do it that way, but that's how some people look at it too.
I think that's super interesting. So Lisa asked a really great question, and I tell you what, Lisa, I'm gonna ask really, really nice if maybe Anne would be kind enough to come back and visit us another time. And I don't mean like tomorrow, this week. And I would love
of course I would.
to do this, what Lisa is suggesting, numerology marking historical events. I think that would be fascinating. If Anne and I could, you guys could ask me the events, I could pass the information along, and we could, sort of break down if certain events have, any kind of value in terms of the numerology of the event, like January the 6th kind of idea. I think that's fascinating. Great idea, Lisa. Great question.
The other thing that we're doing in my community, when I teach numerology in the community, I teach it twice on a Monday, twice on a Tuesday, 2 weeks apart. So I hit all the time zones and potential days for people. And the first class, the 1 o'clock or noon Eastern time, that class, we do practical stuff, right? And then the next class that same day, which is at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we just have an open discussion about it. So what we have been doing is using celebrities as people to study.
Love it.
So interesting. Oh my God. Like Queen Elizabeth was a 16/7 life path number, right? Whoa. I mean, it's.
Is that her real birthday, or is that the birthday that she used? Because her real birthday was in April, but the birthday that she celebrated publicly was in July, I think, right?
Yeah, no, April 1. Yeah. April. Okay. Yeah, it was the April 1. So we're studying her, and we studied Elvis Presley, and we're studying like all kinds of really interesting celebrities. Yeah. Yeah. And what I really, really am trying to do, especially this year, given that this is a 7 universal year, is I'm really hoping that by learning numerology and learning how to interpret the life path numbers with the right sub-lessons attached to them, that you're going to be able to see people differently. An example, I'm writing a book. I said it out loud.
Well, it's how funny. You literally just said that, and Spacia Rising literally just said, I just said to Anne's channel, does Anne have a book?
It's coming, Aspasia. I promise it's coming. It's slow, but it's coming. But to give you an idea of how I'm writing this book, I am a storyteller, and I believe that I am a vessel whereby experiences happen through me and I get to interpret them, learn the lessons from them, and then share the lessons with you. So what I'm doing is I am going to be telling just little random stories about my life, challenges, windfalls, all those kinds of things, and associating it back to the core numbers 1 to 9. And I start out my book by talking about my relationship with my mom. Now, my mom was a 23-5. And I start out by explaining, if I had understood numerology when my mom was alive, I would have known that my mother, her 2, 23-5, her 2 would be related to her massive sensitivity, her huge need to belong, her enormous fear of rejection, right? And her 3, she was an artist. She was an amazing, very, very successful artist, but super critical. And I didn't know that about her, that she had a fear of expressing herself, even though she had this giant need to express herself. And at the end of the day, the 2 and the 3 adds to the 5. And the 5, I need the limelight. I need everybody to see me as different and outrageous and all of that. So such a contradiction, to be outrageous and yet to be that shy little, meek, little hurt, little wounded child. If I'd known that about her, I would have handled her differently, and we would have gotten through our bullshit.
A much different relationship. What's so interesting about what you just said is all of us can relate to that type of an experience, right? Yeah. That if we only understood. So, for example, if you meet someone that you're interested in, and if you knew numerology and you understood it, and you could check out their name or their birth, the birthday, and feel, like as if you now know a different side of them. Are you compatible? Do you have the same qualities and interests and stuff like that? Think of all the dates that you wouldn't have had to go through if you this information, right? I mean, it's interesting.
Well, I hope I'm planning on in the fall of this year doing a workshop where I will be teaching parents how to interpret their children, how to see them differently. And if you can see your children differently, then you can see your coworkers differently. You can see your parents differently and all the relationships in your life. But I feel that there's a lot of kids, 11s in particular. My heart bleeds for 11s because 11s, their vibration is so different than others. It's very, very fine. It's a very high vibration. And quite often the parent just doesn't know what to do with that. Why do you have to be so different? Why do you have to be so sensitive? Why do you have to be so clingy? Why do you have to be you? This is uncomfortable for me because I don't get this. I don't get this high vibration thing. Right. But I get this, right? I get your brothers and I get your sisters. So if you wouldn't mind dropping your vibration, they don't say this, but this is what they are saying is drop your vibration and we want you to become who we want you to be because it's more convenient for us. So the 11 loses themselves. Right.
Or tries to fit themselves into a sort of a box, right?
That they don't belong in, right? And so they're always wearing a mask because they don't feel safe to be who they are because everybody's asking them to be somebody they're not. Yeah. So, and it's really, really difficult. So my goal is to help people just by looking at the date of birth. That's all you need. Look at the date of birth and be able to go, oh, I understand your challenges. I see your gifts and your talents, right? I get you. In a way that fit you, because there's like if you're if you're like in your case, Kelly, you're a 22-4, right? You're not a 31-4. You're not a 13-4. You're a 22-4. So I would approach our relationship in a very different way because I know that. Right. I know what you're here to master and what you're needing to learn. And if I care that much about you, I'm going to help you get there.
I mean, there is not a better way to end this than on that note. So the idea of, I'm walking away from this segment, and I thank you so very much for joining us. But I'm walking away from this segment thinking to myself, what an amazing gift that this is, that we now have an understanding where if we want to figure out why we are challenged with by someone, or if we are locking horns with someone, if we are thinking about getting into a partnership with them in any form, maybe it's the house that you want to move into, right? If you can look at the numbers and see a different perspective, gain a new understanding, then be able to approach the situation from a different standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, could we not all get along? You know what I mean? I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And I can't think of a better way to end the show. Thank you, everybody, for popping in.
And for the questions, they're great.
I really, really appreciate it, and could literally sit here for days and days and days. So please do go check out her channel. It is in the description box below the video. Her website did go up through the chat, so that's there. It's AnnePerryNumerologist.com, correct?
You got it.
That's you can book a reading with Anne. You can go to the resource tab on her website, and it will give you different resources, how to figure out your birth, your life path number, and your destiny number.
And sign up for that newsletter, because that'll get you a whole train of really good information that'll teach you all kinds of stuff. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And thank you so very much. This has been such a treat.
I appreciate you looking me up.
Absolutely. All right, friends, we're going to leave it here. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. I will be back on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time with Ben from Beneficial Tarot for Tea Time with Ben. So I hope that you can tune in for that. And until we see each other again, I wish you many blessings. Bye, everyone.